My name's Lisa Marie and I'm a survivor of domestic abuse. If you had come to my home, you would have seen no obvious signs of domestic abuse, though I may not have been able to look you in the eye due to my low self-esteem. I lived in a nice home in a nice area, and myself and my partner were unknown to the police. Had you have spoken to my neighbours, they may have told you they heard us rowing at all times of day or night. There is now a law in place to protect us from the psychological abuse I have suffered under the Controlling and Coercive Behaviour Act, which was brought into place on December 29, 2015. No human being has the right to control another, not in any circumstances, not in any way. No one should live in fear of somebody they love. Many people may not realise they're being abused. My abuser would turn on a knife edge and often fly into unprovoked rage. I was subjected to everyday criticism of my life, my friends, my family, my past and my ways. He wore me down so much I could no longer see his rights from his wrongs. I was called a freak, a psycho, a weirdo. I was made to feel like everything was my fault. I was showered with love and adoration and bombarded with abuse and hate. I was often stopped from sleeping or awoken at night, accused of imagined scenarios. He would shout and swear at me so the neighbours would surely hear. I realised I was depressed long before I realised I was being abused. After regularly telephoning my employer and unexpected visits to my place of work, my perpetrator rang my employer and told them I'd smashed up our home and I was a drug user. I worked for a local substance misuse charity. This could have cost me my job. I was taunted, ridiculed, controlled and abused, all to ease my abuser's own insecurities. I lived in fear and felt unsafe in my own home, in our own home. I was often thrown out onto the street with all of my belongings. Due to his appalling behaviour, I suffered chronic depression. I had many months of night terrors and flashbacks. I went from the bubbly social person I usually am to a shadow of my former self. Social media became impossible as he would question everything and everyone on there. He would often ask why I wore makeup and said it was because my own mum wore makeup and that his mum didn't wear makeup, so neither should I. It's these small control tactics that eventually wear you down and you just give up for a quiet life. As my case unfolded and I understood more about coercive control, I realised I had eyewitness testimonies, recordings of threatening voicemails, emails and social media correspondence. Alone, this seemed small and insignificant, but together it amounted to a catalogue of evidence. I didn't intentionally gather evidence of my abuse. In reality, I thought my perpetrator was seriously going to harm me or even kill me. I started keeping records of the voicemails, the threats and the emails because I genuinely thought if something happened to me, if he did kill me, then there would be evidence left behind and people would know what had happened to me. This is a sort of fear the perpetrators instill in us. And it's this sort of fear that can cause reluctance when victims are first met with police contact. I was prompted by my employer to report this behaviour after many months of manipulation, coercion, controlling behaviour and abuse. When I first came to Gwent Police, I was very afraid, but I was lucky enough to be met by a very understanding male officer. He took me seriously and he gave me a lot of hours of his time. He didn't make me feel like I was overreacting, and I was really grateful for that. The officer did pick up on harassment, but he didn't pick up on coercive control. Although harassment is a part of coercive control, it's a very different thing. Coercive control is a slow trickle of a process. I didn't realise I was being abused. I just put it down to my perpetrator having a bad day or he's in another one of those moods. It's a very calculated process. I was manipulated, my trust was gained, and I was very slowly isolated. This doesn't happen overnight. He wouldn't actually hit me. He told me many times that he would never hit a woman, but he did used to pin me down on the stairs and he would put his fists up to my teeth and he would use this sort of control, fear and manipulation to threaten me and frighten me. On the day of sentencing, it was revealed in court, unbeknownst to me, that my perpetrator had a previous conviction for smashing a glass in an ex-girlfriend's face and wounding her seriously. I was absolutely floored and had no idea. Coercive control is the foundation for every other type of abuse. Police need to be aware that this type of abuse often escalates to physical, sexual and other types of abuse. I've no doubt in my mind that if I'd stayed with my perpetrator, very quickly this abuse would have escalated. He used to tell me all the time that one day he would snap and nobody would be able to stop him. We can all be guilty of unconscious bias. However, domestic abuse can affect anyone, regardless of status, class, religion, race or gender. We need to keep an open mind that this can affect anyone, no matter whether you live on a council estate or in an affluent area. Changes of perceptions start with those on the front line in any sector. Don't be quick to dismiss the repeat callers and concern calls from neighbours. Always look at the bigger picture. You could be the lifeline for someone who's been silenced by abuse and fear for so long.